This is WBSM On Demand.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to my show, and I am, you are the audience. I am the host. I'm Chris McCarthy, and we have a great guest today, the former mayor of Fall River, Will Flanagan. Good morning, Will. How are you, my friend?
Chris, I'm doing well. Great to be here with you on WBSM. First time on the show.
First time on the program, yeah.
And honored to be a guest here in studio.
So, Will, you and I had a great conversation a couple of days ago when I invited you on the program to talk about different stuff that's going on. Certainly, the lame duck of an administration years are interesting. They're always interesting. They're often tragic, which I think is the moment we're in right now. Interesting and tragic. Quickly, what are your thoughts, Will, on the pardons? That more to come, obviously, but the pardon of Hunter Biden by his father, President Biden.
I'm not surprised
No.
that the father pardoned his son. I feel we all knew it was going to happen. Anybody who follows politics or follows the lore of the Bidens knew that this was going to happen. What bothers me about it, Chris, is that we were lied to.
Right.
The president looked us in the eyes and said that he would not pardon his son. The secretary for the press would stand in the briefing room and day after day say with a straight face that President Joe Biden would respect the decision of the Department of Justice and respect the decision of the judicial branch and not issue a pardon for the son. And here we are just a few days before the end of the year and the start of a new presidential term with a new president. And Biden issues a pardon on a Sunday to go back 10 years.
Right.
To pardon his son of any crimes that he may have committed that we know or don't know about.
Right.
So it's a get out of jail free card for the last 10 years for Hunter Biden.
We're speaking with Will Flanagan. He's my guest here in studio. Of course, Will used to be the mayor of Fall River, but he's always been a practicing attorney. You're still practicing now, right?
Correct, yes.
Well, what do you think about this as a former prosecutor here at Bristol County and as a defense attorney? Certainly, let's go as a former prosecutor. What's your opinion of the pardons?
It's troubling. You had a prosecutor who put the work in. Every hour spent on the Hunter Biden case was one less hour spent on other cases that could have been more important or more detrimental to the health and safety of our country. So some prosecutor, some office somewhere put the time and effort into bringing this indictment forward and put the work in on it, and the rug was pulled under the feet of this prosecutorial team. It's not a good, it's a chilling effect on the court system where, okay, we're going to have a son of a president commit crimes we may not even know about, and then it's okay, because of who your father is,
right,
you don't have to worry about being brought to justice. Anybody in New Bedford commits a crime, they're hauled off to jail because Hunter's father's the president of the United States of America, former vice president with Barack Obama, former senator. He doesn't have to worry about what you and I would have to worry about if we commit a crime.
We're speaking with Will Flanagan, the former mayor of Fall River, and he's a practicing attorney, defense attorney. Will, what do you think about this as a defense attorney? Because this is something you'd love for all your clients, right?
Well, if the client were to come in and say, hey, my father's the president of the United States of America, his term's coming to an end, I would say, well, we got nothing to worry about, right? It's like almost cash the check and not have to worry about cracking open the law books or writing a brief or showing up to court. But those clients are few and far between. And, I got to think about the man or woman sitting in jail today, who was brought to trial and convicted for something far less and was given a term of 10, 15 years. He or she did not have the opportunity to spend Thanksgiving with their child. How many Christmases did they miss? How many birthdays did they miss? How many graduations or funerals did they miss?
Right.
Yes, do the crime, do the time, but because your last name's not Biden, you don't get the get out of jail free card.
We're speaking with Will Flanagan, the former mayor of Fall River. Will, the idea that what President Biden put into that pardon, a very lengthy pardon, that he mentions people don't, and his press team around saying people don't really go to jail for these crimes. What does your experience say on gun crimes, both as a prosecutor and a defense attorney? Your experience in the courtroom here in Bristol County. People go to jail for gun crimes like hunters, right?
People go to jail without conviction for carrying an illegal firearm.
Explain that.
When Sam Sutter was the DA of Bristol County, he brought into effect what was called the dangerousness hearing. If you were in Bristol County and you got stopped with an illegal firearm, you were held without bail, for up to 120 days in jail. And once convicted, minimum mandatory of 18 months. So there was a high probability, a high likelihood, if you were stopped by the police with an illegal firearm, meaning a firearm that was not registered in the state of Massachusetts.
Right.
You could have had it legally in Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire. And if the police stopped you in Massachusetts and you did not have that firearm registered to you in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a judge could hold you without bail up to 120 days. So gun crimes are something we take very seriously as a nation, and people have been held without bail for not even being convicted of a crime of carrying a firearm illegally. And here we have the President of the United States of America, his son, committing these crimes. There's no question that he committed the crimes. He pled guilty to them.
Right.
So it's not like he was innocent. He violently or convicted after a jury trial. Maybe the jury got it wrong.
Right.
He pled guilty. Right. Beyond a reasonable doubt, the facts were there for a guilty finding. He admitted wrongdoing, and here we are. He has nothing to worry about. And also the tax crimes, too. Right. You say what you want to say about carrying firearms and your Second Amendment right. You don't pay your taxes, you're going to jail.
Yes.
Ask Al Capone, right?
Right.
So whether it was carrying the illegal firearm, the drugs, the cocaine, the crystal meth, the crack, the prostitutes, whatever it may be, he's not going to see inside of a jail for anything he did.
Speaking with Will Flanagan, the former mayor of Fall River. He's a practicing defense attorney here in our region, and he's got other business interests as well. We're going to take a quick break. I'm Chris McCarthy. We'll be right back. We're talking about a lot of the stuff that's just been going on lately, and we're going to talk more with Will. Carter's Clothing and Footwear. They've been around since 1947. That's 77 years for you and me, covering all of your clothing needs for the South Coast style that you have, owned and operated by the same family, the great American family, the Carter family, right? They've got a location in New Bedford, 55 Williams Street in downtown New Bedford, and they've even got one on Plymouth Avenue in Fall River. Will, do you ever use Carter's Clothing and Footwear?
Was there last week, bought a Carhartt sweatshirt. Keeps me nice and warm during these cold winter days here in New England.
It's a great business there in Fall River, great business here in New Bedford, right?
Yes.
Will Flanagan, the former mayor of New Bedford, shops there. We know that the former mayor of New Bedford, Scott Lang, shops there. We know that the current mayor, John Mitchell, shops there. I shop there. Natalie shops there. We all shop at Carter's Clothing and Footwear because they offer great American brands like Carhartt, like the mayor just said, Chippewa, Timberland, Levi's, Under Armour, New Balance, all at prices that can't be beat anywhere else, okay? All the maniacs have already done the Black Friday shopping, right? You regular people like me, who wait till the end, right? Now the end is here. It's time to start your Christmas and holiday shoppings. So head to Carter's and Clothing and Footwear. You can get in and out in a flash. They've got great, helpful staff, right? Free parking at both locations. Zip in, zip out. Get what you need. If they, like Mayor Lang says, if they don't have it at Carter's, you don't need it, right? Clothe your entire family there at Carter's Clothing and Footwear. So, Mayor Flanagan, the Democrat Party.
Yes.
You've been a member for, I would say, your whole adult life, right?
Correct. Since I was able to register to vote at the age of 18, I registered Democrat. Bill Clinton was president. I voted for Al Gore, voted for John Kerry, voted for Barack Obama twice. And I feel that I'm not leaving the party. The party left me.
Right.
I look at the issues that the Democratic Party has supported, they're advocating for, Those are not issues that help my family on a daily basis. They're actually issues that hurt my family and hurt businesses around here, like in Fall River and New Bedford. I see the migrant issue. And then I see people who were born and raised in cities like Fall River and New Bedford who are living on the streets. They cannot get access to a hotel room. They cannot get access to affordable housing or groceries, driver's license. Look at cities like New York, where people who came to this country illegally are committing crimes, and they're being released without bail back on the streets to recommit crimes. You see the sexual assaults that have occurred, the murders that have occurred, and I cannot just walk into another country. I cannot just walk into Canada or Germany or England. There's borders.
Right.
And historically, the United States of America had a border. In fact, we're bordered by oceans.
Right.
We were a safe country. Just recently, it became cool, woke, to say, okay, everybody just walk on in, come on in. You know, it's going to be the land of milk and honey for you.
Right.
The resources just aren't here. And the more you put resources in one basket, it's less you're going to be able to put in the other. And then I look at how we've become so woke on issues with biological men going in women's bathrooms or playing high school sports. And it's just not the way I want to see the country go, or the direction. It's not the America I remember growing up in as a child. You know, I think of the 80s and how great things were.
Sure.
So I look at the party and its candidates and the messaging, and I just cannot no longer identify with it. And I've been struggling, Chris. I really have been. As a lifelong Democrat, former chair of the Democratic Party, a former chair of the Bristol County Democratic League, to say, is this something I really want to do? Because I take it seriously.
Sure.
I take my rights to vote seriously. I take my party affiliation seriously. But how can I be a part of something that I just don't identify with anymore?
Right.
I can't.
Will Flanagan, former mayor of Fall River, as a father, how much does this influence your decision?
Almost 100%.
Okay.
Because I think about the future and the America that our children will be growing up in. I'm 44 years old, but I think of our children and the country that we will leave to them. I want the next generation to have more opportunity than this generation.
Right.
It always has.
Sure.
The next generation has always had more opportunity. And it's about generational responsibility, taking the place that we have and leaving it better off for the people who are coming after us, our children. And it just doesn't have that feeling that, okay, when we are no longer here on God's green earth, that our children are going to have more opportunity than us. They may even have less opportunity, and that's sad, and we can't let that happen.
And you put that blame in some part on the Democrat Party.
Well, it's the messaging, the advocacy, what they're fighting for. It's almost anti-American, anti-culture.
Right.
And it's fighting for people who did not come here legally, fighting for ideas and ideology that just doesn't make sense or violates common sense.
Right.
And when I look at the world, sometimes I feel that, our leadership in the world is being threatened, and that our enemies are those who want to see us do worse than them, or worse than, where we can be, who are rooting for us to fail. Are we almost allowing that to happen? And we can't. You have the slogan "Make America Great Again," and I do believe in that slogan.
Right.
You're going to make this country great again. It's no better place than the United States of America. But look, my grandparents came here illegally. There was a sponsorship system where you had to be sponsored, or you had to, come into the country and take an oath that you were going to do everything you could to make America the best place it could be. Take an oath to this country that, okay, I'm going to become a good American citizen. And where is that oath today? Who is swearing allegiance to our country, who's saying, okay, at the time of crisis, I'm going to go above and beyond to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to ensure that we have a great economy, or that our streets are safe, or that our school system is going to be educating our children. It just seems to be this void, especially within the party, where it's like, oh, I just can't be a part of that anymore, Chris.
We're speaking with Will Flanagan, a really honest guy, right, who's having a crisis of identity, really, right? What political party is he going to belong to? Can he stay with the Democrats any longer? Will, you listed, I don't normally ask someone, but you listed the past presidents you voted for. Who did you vote for in this last election?
Donald Trump. Yeah.
You were one of those Democrats who said enough and voted for Donald Trump.
And Fall River, where it's my hometown, I was born and raised, has voted Democrat in the presidential election, I think, for the last 25 or 50 years.
Right.
This is the first time in a long time where the city, by majority, voted Republican. And that trend probably will continue as we go into the future. And look at some of our Democratic leaders. You know, you have Jake Auchincloss, who is the representative from Fall River. You have the senators from Massachusetts. What are they fighting for, or what have they done to make Massachusetts a better state here in the union? You look at other states, especially red states, and they start to outperform us.
Right.
Whether it comes to health care or education or public safety or the economy or infrastructure, we get outperformed. So when you're advocating for federal funding or federal policies to help states, especially the state that you represent, why is it that as a state we're not seeing our fair share?
Right.
It becomes troubling.
They are more obstructionist against anything Trump wants, even if it's good for Massachusetts. Is that your opinion?
Very much so. If the Republican Party is going to say the skies are blue, they're going to say, no, there's a touch of gray.
Right.
And that's not the way it should be. And it wasn't like that at one point. Republicans and Democrats could get along. You think of people like Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill,
right,
where they were able to, advocate for their policy or advocate for their issue, but after the vote was taken, to move on, or even say, okay, I may have not supported you, but now I see your point and I will support you.
Right.
It becomes more obstructionist and fighting and name calling and dirt throwing and mudslinging, and that's what turns people away from politics. People may have a higher approval rating of a root canal than they do of some of their elected officials.
We're speaking with Will Flanagan, who was the former mayor of Fall River, and I think now soon to be a former Democrat.
Very much so.
You'll be joining the Republican Party.
That's my intentions, yes.
You've spoken with the party chair?
I have.
The Republican Party, you think, has a bright future in Massachusetts?
I do.
What are some of the issues that have really impacted you, that have made you just reject something that you've been practicing really your whole life, being a member of the Democrat Party?
Well, I'm pro-life.
Yes.
And I believe in life at conception. And especially the last 2 or 3 years, the party stance on abortion and how radical they have become on abortion rights, and even going farther than what the court established in Roe v. Wade. Right. I'm an attorney. I understand the law. I understand the Supreme Court case of Roe v. Wade and all the cases that came before it and the cases that came after it, and when abortions were legal and when they were illegal.
Right.
But when I start seeing states putting in policies that allow for abortion so late in the pregnancy, it's sad, it's immoral, and it's a sin, in my opinion. And I'm also somebody who believes heavily in heaven and God, and heavily in that.
Right.
So it becomes sad to see what happens. So whether it's the border issue or abortion or the gender issues, or it becomes more issues that are personal, I guess, to me and you. Yes, there's the economy, and there's national security, and there's infrastructure and environmental issues. And those are big issues. They're important issues.
Right.
But what is motivating me are the issues that affect our beliefs,
Yes.
our morals, and also the fabric and the strength of our society.
We have the former mayor of Fall River, Will Flanagan, here. He'll take your calls at 508-996-0500, making a major announcement that he's planning on leaving the Democrat Party and joining the Republican Party here in Massachusetts. This is a major, major flip. Probably not the first and not the last, based on the policies of the Democrat Party, right, Will?
And I also think mainstream media is promoting a image that Democrats are in a fetal position. They're leaving the country. They're going to do everything they can to see this administration fail, rooting for failure from the sidelines. That's not the case. You got somebody like me who was born a Democrat, family was members in the union and advocacy for workers' rights, voted Democrat, was proud to have the D by their name. But it's looking at society where we are now saying, well, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure this country succeeds.
Right.
And no matter who the president is or no matter who won the last election, that, okay, it's time to roll up your sleeves and get to work and make sure that America is moving forward, not doing everything we can to hold the coattails of the country and keep us back. So I think sometimes mainstream media is also responsible, Chris, for putting out there a false message that Democrats are all doom and gloom right now, but you got one here that isn't.
Will Flanagan's here in studio. We're going to take some calls. Good morning. Thanks for holding. You're live on the air.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Flanagan.
Good morning.
I've been listening to you. You're the first Democratic politician in this area that makes any sense. Why don't you talk to Mayor Mitchell? Maybe you can give him some advice.
Willing to help anybody, not against helping anybody who needs the help.
Well, you make a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call, my friend. I do appreciate it. There's a gentleman who is very concerned with the rising taxes and the economy and things like that.
Understandable.
The Democrat Party has been captured in many ways by the extreme radical left. Talk about that.
Well, we saw it especially during COVID, and we saw it during the riots that took place not too long ago. You had politicians, elected officials who would just give up the podium to people who were looking to radicalize or cause trouble at different events. And it's almost as if you say, okay, I'm going to, do everything I can to support your radical ideology or do everything I can to promote you because it's woke. It's what's cool.
Right.
But that woke ideology, that's almost against common sense.
Right.
It's dying, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be dead. And you have these politicians, mostly a lot of them Democrats, who signed on to this woke ideology, who either they're going to stay with it and maybe get voted out of office in the future, or you're going to see them do a 180 and say, I'm no longer subscribing to this ideology. But it was mind-boggling to see this very vocal minority become empowered.
Right.
And I don't know who was supporting it or who was bringing this agenda forward, but it was very detrimental, I felt, to the health and future of our country.
We have Will Flanagan, the former mayor of Fall River, now a former Democrat. He's going to make a party switch to the Republican Party. Will, how important... You come, of course, from a prosecutor's background, a defense attorney today. You're very familiar with law enforcement, their role in society. The demonization by the Democrat Party and some members of the Democrat Party of law enforcement, how much did that impact your decision?
It played a role in it.
Yeah.
It really did. Look, are there bad police officers out there? Of course they are. There's police officers who commit crime. There's police officers who commit brutality. And we got to hold those police officers responsible. But the vast majority of police officers, and my father was one of them, go to work or went to work every day to make a difference. It's a job where you're not paid a lot of money, but you have a lot of responsibility. And also the decisions that you make on a daily basis have a huge effect on the people that you interact with in the community. And even today, being a police officer is looked down upon by a lot of people, especially the party, the Democratic Party, where it was cool to be a criminal.
Right.
And if you were a police officer, you were part of the problem and not part of the solution. And that's something the party really needs to get back to, supporting community policing, building that bond between community and police officer, especially in our inner communities where you really need to be proactive in policing, because that child who's 4 or 5 years old has a high likelihood of joining a gang.
Right.
But if they have a big brother or a big sister in their life who's going to help them make the right decisions and not the wrong decisions, the bad decisions, that's how you start to make some breakthrough in that generational responsibility that I was talking about. So it was mind-boggling to see how, especially some of the leaders in the Democratic Party, were demonizing and putting down law enforcement, trying to make it un-American to be a police officer.
We're speaking with Will Flanagan. Will, of course, was the former mayor of Fall River. Will, the city of Fall River went through an amazing corruption scandal with the guy who followed you.
Yes.
Jazel Correa, he's now, like Howie says, I was going to read his inmate number off, but I don't know it. But he's a federal inmate. I think he's in New England still, and maybe in New Hampshire now. Maybe got moved. I think he did get moved, right? But anyway, I don't know if you follow up with him. But what he did with the office that you so proudly served, what do you think of that?
He was convicted of public corruption. Mm-hmm. And whenever you have public corruption, you destabilize government. People lose faith in their government. You have people struggling right now, living paycheck to paycheck, trying just to get through the holidays, right? And this is a very stressful time for people.
It is.
You have mothers and fathers and people all across America trying to pay their bills, keep the heat on, keep the lights on, have a Christmas dinner for their kids and maybe a gift under the tree, and still looking at the bank account and figure out how the hell they're going to do it. It's going to become a magic act for a lot of people these next 20 days or so. So when you have to pay taxes and pay fees and see government and its politicians and its elected officials being brought before the court system and being convicted of crimes, especially involving public corruption, it really makes people lose faith in government. And it's unfortunate that it happened in Fall River. The city's a strong city. It moved on from it. But for a long time, for those few years that this young man was in office, it was a black eye for the city.
Right.
Yeah. Instead of highlighting the good things that were happening in Fall River, it was being talked about for the wrong reasons.
Right. We have Will Flanagan here in studio. Will, how early into his administration did you start to hear rumors of what was happening?
Early on.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It didn't take long. In fact, when you talk to people now, the seeds were planted there long before he was an elected official. And you reap what you sow, right?
Right. 508-996, we have a call here. Good morning. Thanks for holding your live with Chris McCarthy and Will Flanagan.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Mayor, I was a member of the New Bedford Police Department for just over 37 years, and proud, older, independent voter. And I recently had this conversation. In fact, I posed the question to Chris McCarthy recently on which party I should try to affiliate more now that I'm out of law enforcement and I can start to have my voice. And you just nailed it with your explanation of why you're leaving the Democrat Party. I'm not saying I'm going to now jump on the Republican Party because of your explanation, but you hit the nail on the head when you described how they left you hanging. They walked away from you with their thoughts and ideas. And to show a good example of it, we have a member of the New Bedford City Council that's running for council president right now, that his thoughts and theories, especially on law enforcement, are as far away from my opinions of law enforcement that anyone can be. And I hope that that doesn't happen. But I really appreciate how you just explained that the Democrat Party left you. So thank you very much. Chris, you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thanks for the call, my friend. How important, Mayor, is local government, even who the city council president is, or who the mayors are, to the running of America?
All politics is local.
Right.
And if you think about government, you cannot go to Pennsylvania Avenue and walk into the White House and talk to the president.
Right.
You cannot go into the State House in Boston and have a face-to-face meeting with the governor. But you can't walk into City Hall in New Bedford or Fall River and stop the mayor and talk to him or her face-to-face.
Right.
So it's government as government was meant to be. You are living in the community with the people who represent you. And you elect your mayor, you elect your city council, you elect your school board to be your representative. They're your voice, your advocate for the issues that are affecting your family on a day-to-day basis. Whether your street lights are on, your streets are plowed, the sidewalks are taken care of, the potholes are filled, trash is being picked up on time, the street lights are working, the traffic lights are working, all that is local. So the local government may have a more direct effect on your life than anything happening at the state or federal level.
We have Will Flanagan here in studio. When we get back, I'm going to talk to him about the benefits of running for office, the psychological and the emotional pleasure you get out of being in office and doing the right thing, even though it's difficult sometimes, right? So, folks, stick around. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to the program. I'm Chris McCarthy. It's the holiday season, and now you've been chosen to host the big party. Well, who's going to do the cooking? Not you. Don't worry about anything, okay? Riccardi's will take care of you. Riccardi's is your first stop for the tastiest party platters, large or small, hot or cold. Folks love their antipasto, baked lasagna, chicken and eggplant parmesan, meatballs and sausage, and so much more. Simply uncover and serve. Packaged and prepared for an attractive presentation. Riccardi's Italian Restaurant on Hathaway Road in the great city of New Bedford, or right here in Fairhaven on Sconneck Neck Road. When you see the Riccardi's box, it's going to be a great party. Folks, don't fret about cooking. Just call Riccardi's. They'll handle it for you. So, speaking with Will Flanagan, the former mayor of Fall River. Mayor, the thing I always ask people about this, Tom Hodgson, who started as a city councilor, they agree. I was a selectman. Talk about running for local office and the importance of it and how great it is to win or lose to serve your community in that role.
It was a great experience.
Yeah.
And especially when I was mayor of Fall River, I was first elected at the age of 29, which is young to be a mayor, even in today's society or any generation that you look at. And being able to be the mayor of the city that you were born and raised in and live in is and was an unbelievable experience to be able to help people. And that's really why you do the job or did the job, is because you're able to help people and make the city better. And whether it was an issue affecting the economy or public safety or education or community events, it was about lifting the spirit of the city, lifting the pride of the community. And I think that's probably one of the most important things that a elected official can do, and that's lift the pride of the city, to lift the imagery of the city, to get people believing in their community that anything is possible. And whether it's bringing a big company into the city or making the streets safer or bringing more community events into the community, it's getting the resident to believe in the community and the city and getting them involved. What is detrimental to community is when we no longer become involved in the community that we live in. There was a time in America where you knew your neighbor, where you knew the people on your block, where if you needed a cup of sugar, you can knock on the neighbor's door and he or she would give it to you. In today's society, how many of us know our neighbor?
Yes.
How many times do we interact with our neighbor? And that's not our fault. It's just the way society has become, the hustle and bustle, the rat race, people moving and going and coming, and people working all types of hours. In order to have successful communities, whether it's Fall River, New Bedford, or anywhere on God's green earth, because we all have the same issues. I don't care where you are, right, where you're living. You can be living in Portugal or New Bedford. The issues are the same. It's issues affecting the economy, public safety, infrastructure, environmental. The issues are the same. The success of the community depends on the involvement of the citizen and the resident of the community. And when you have mayors and city councilors, selectmen who are able to get out into the community and be advocates and get people involved, that's when you're going to have a successful city or town.
We're speaking with Mayor Flanagan, with former Mayor of Fall River, Will Flanagan. Mayor Mitchell here of New Bedford references the book Bowling Alone all the time because it's about the isolation and how people have stopped joining bowling leagues or serving on city boards, volunteer unpaid positions. People just aren't doing it anymore. And, Will, when you first got involved in politics, I can't imagine it was because someone ordered you to. It's because you felt compelled, like an American, to jump in. You saw a problem, and you wanted to fix it.
100% correct. And I was in my 20s.
Right.
It wasn't cool to be, volunteering on campaigns and getting involved in politics. People my age were, going out clubbing or,
right,
hitting the nightlife scene. And here I am, volunteering and getting involved in the local mayor's election,
right,
or, issues going before the city council and advocating for a particular bill or a particular issue. So it takes, a special person to go through what you just said, to volunteer, to become part of the PTO or to volunteer on the park board or the zoning board, because you need good citizens with common sense making the right decisions that are going to help the city or town that they live in. And the more you are involved in your community, the better your community is going to be.
Will, how important is it to you as a businessman who are making investments at this point in gateway cities like Fall River? Talk about your experience in Fall River, now that you're not the mayor anymore, about trying to buy real estate and zoning, things like that.
In Fall River, I've had a positive experience.
Okay.
Some cities and towns, less. And because sometimes you go into a city or a town and the rules or the zoning might be archaic, or sometimes you have a zoning law that there's red tape or meetings that sometimes the board only meets once a summer or
right,
something like that. So sometimes the laws or the rules or the regulations can be stifling or anti-business. I know when I was mayor of Fall River, I did everything I could to cut the red tape.
Right.
I put forth what was called a waterfront zoning improvement plan, and that was back in 2010. And if you drive through Fall River today, especially along its waterfront, you'll see the waterfront starting to take shape. That was because of the work we did 14 years ago. Also, the people who carried on that work, and also the people who came before me who also did work on the waterfront. It's important to have stability in government. It's important to have people who are going to carry on projects, because a lot of the projects are not going to be completed in a 2 or 4 year term. You're going to have to make sure that you have a government in place or a structure in place that no matter who the mayor is, no matter who the governor is, that these projects are going to be continued. Look at South Coast Rail.
Right.
South Coast Rail is a project that's been worked on for at least 30 years.
Yes.
It's now coming to fruition.
Yeah.
But it took many of mayors, many of governors, many of senators and congressmen to get that to come to fruition. And whether you support the project or don't support it is something that took a lot of work to get done.
As a business person now with a lot of government experience, how do you treat the communities that you do business in? In other words, what is the role from you from a small business person? What is your philosophy on the community you're doing business in?
You got to help the community,
right,
Chris. In my line of work, I see people on a daily basis who are coming up a few cents short on their order, or, are looking for advice or help, or who are struggling. I do everything I can to almost give you the shirt off my back. And
Sure.
That's just the way I was raised, and
Right.
that was the way I was brought up. Okay, maybe the profit's not going to be as big, or we're going to break even on something, but I do everything I can not to lose money, because that'd make
Right.
me a bad businessman.
Of course.
But, I also do everything I can to help the community, because I believe in karma. I believe if you help somebody, it's going to come back to you. But also you build that relationship with people. If people know you, they trust you, they're going to come back. They'll be a repeat customer. And if you're able to put a little more in the pockets of the people who are your customers, hopefully they'll continue to do well and they'll be able to support your business. A rising tide lifts all ships. I do believe in that theory. And if you're doing well, you got to make sure the people around you do well also.
508-996-05. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. He's leaving the Democrat Party, or the Democrat Party left you. Is that the best way to understand it, Mayor?
That's the way I rationalize it. That I'm not leaving the party. The party left me. It's a party that I no longer identify with. And a lot of politics is you have to identify with it. And that's life.
Right.
The music you like, you identify it. The TV shows you watch, or, the food you like is something you identify with.
Right.
So if you don't like, your vegetables, you're not going to eat them, right?
Right.
So, I can't identify with this party, and it's nothing I did. It's what they did.
Right. The radical left.
Very much so.
Will, you are going to join the Republican Party. As for running for office, do you see that in your immediate future?
Immediate future, no, but I definitely don't rule it out.
You're a young man.
44, yeah, and I enjoyed serving as mayor of Fall River. It was refreshing and rewarding and inspirational to be able to go to work every day and make a difference, especially at the local level. And I do believe that Republicans can get elected in this area. And if you have somebody who has a common sense approach, right, and somebody who the people will take seriously and identify with and is speaking their language, then I feel that whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you have a high probability of getting elected. And a lot of it becomes less of your party affiliation and what you're saying and what your stances are.
Right.
If you're taking a stance that's so radical that your constituency is left scratching their head saying, how does that help me and my family? It becomes strange and taboo. But if you have folks out there who are, going to Boston or Washington or town hall or city hall, fighting for, a better economy or protecting your sons and daughters and making sure that your wife is safe, those are the people you want to get behind. Those are the people who represent you.
Well, if people want to learn more about you, follow you, you're on social media?
Yeah, I
What's
am.
the best way?
Facebook. If you Google William A. Flanagan, you see a lot of stories or social media platforms. But I say Facebook's probably the best way for people to follow me.
Is it Will Flanagan at law? How do you identify on there?
William A. Flanagan.
William A. Flanagan, Fall River.
I'm sure that helps if you type Fall River. So.
Born and raised, the former mayor, a lifelong Democrat, today announcing here on this program that he's leaving the Democrat Party to join the Republican Party. Congratulations.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate, Will, you using this forum. I hope you'll come back.
I will. I enjoy being here, and I also used to host a talk show on another call sign, but this is beautiful. I love the station, and I really enjoy being here today.
It's nice how people can pull right up to the window and
like
wave
it.
at you, give you the thumbs up.
We
right?
had one, right? Yeah,
We did.
Yeah.
We had someone, folks, show up to here at the window and give Will a thumbs up right after he announced he was leaving the Democrat Party to join the Massachusetts Republican Party. Will, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Honored to be here.
Folks, stick around for the great Barry Richard. He's back from vacation. He had a couple days off like I did, and he'll be back here to tear it up. A little bit after Bill O'Reilly, right? So stick around for Barry Richard. I'm sure he's going to really tear in to the Hunter Biden pardon and explore it in ways I wasn't able to explore it with Barry's own unique take on things. So I hope you'll stick around for Barry Richard a little bit after Bill O'Reilly, right? Isn't it amazing how tall Bill O'Reilly is, Will? Isn't it amazing?
Amazed,
right? Folks, Bill O'Reilly's going to come here and sit down and take over the program. So stick around for Bill